Okay, this is chapters 96 through 100 of 14 Ways to Die. 96. Dad is in the bathroom when everyone arrives, and as they fill up the living room and kitchen, I quickly realize we haven't thought this through. How big is your backyard? Ross asks. Big enough. He nods and gets everyone's attention, then looks at me like he's expecting something. If they want an inspirational speech, they came to the wrong place. Instead, I say, this way, leading them out the back where they stand around looking awkwardly at one another. What time does Danny get here? Ross asks. Usually 7, but I told him to be early today. Ross nods and says, you should say something. Now? Yes, they came because of you. They came because of you, I say. Ross laughs. Just talk to them. That wave of sickness I've been feeling since yesterday is now a tsunami. Hey, I say. Look, thank you for coming. A few of them smile, but most stare with blank faces. Then I see Frances and I think of her grandson, Lorna's son, who will never see their mother again, and it triggers something in me. I started doing this for my mom, I say. I wanted justice, because she has never come close to getting that. I thought I could go live once a week. I thought I could go live once a week and remind everyone what he did, and somehow someone would realize who he was or finally give him up, and we would end this. But all I did was attract horrible people and stalkers. And then I met Ross. He listened to my idea and thought it was a good one. And he somehow got you all together. I'm so grateful for that. I catch Frances's eye, then look away and say, I am so sorry for what he did, to all of you. If I could have caught him when I was 7, I would have. He took my mother. He stole her for no reason, and I hate him for that. Everyone is nodding now. Then they look past me at something over my shoulder, and when I turn, Dad is there. He looks both happy and nervous, but there's also a look of understanding, because he recognizes them too. Everyone, this is my dad. Dad, this is everyone. 97. Danny looks at his watch, then he nods at me, his fingers counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The red light on the camera flashes on, and we are live. I haven't done this for a while, I say, but today is different. There's someone out there lying to you. There's someone out there who pretends they're like everyone else, and then, when you're not looking, they murder people. One of you knows him. One of you is sitting next to him right now, and he's acting completely normal, because that's how he gets away with it. One of you is being lied to by the person you love, and if you look hard enough, you will realize that. Because there's no such thing as the perfect lie, and there's no such thing as the perfect crime. You think because my mom was killed a decade ago, because the same man killed 13 other people without being caught, you think because he hasn't left a clue at the crime scene that he hasn't left a clue anywhere? Of course he has. You just have to look for it. It's all we're asking, that you look. Really look at the person sitting next to you, and you find that clue, because you can't do this again. We've suffered enough. The camera moves slowly away from my face, panning back until you can see the army standing behind me. We all stare into the camera, burning our faces into the eyes of everyone watching, all 45 of us, my dad included. We're the families of the 14 women he murdered. When the police say he never leaves anything behind, not a clue or a security camera image or a strand of DNA, they're wrong. We are what he left behind. The camera stays on us for 30 long seconds, then the screen goes blank, the live feed shutting down. Danny said Adrian agreed because it made a better show. It gives us time to set up for the next shot, which is me talking to the father of Sophie Cresswell, the girl who was killed 9 months after my mom. For the whole day, I talk to the families of the Magpie Man's victims, their grief more visible the closer we get to the end. When I talk to the husband and sister of Sandra Stoneham, I feel guilty for seeing the photograph of her body and wonder if the police have showed them. Would they look if they had the choice? Would I? When it's my turn to speak, Dad rests his hand on my arm and says, May I? I didn't think you'd want to, I say. Neither did I, he whispers. Dad takes my seat, and when I move away, he holds my hand and says, Let's do this together. Danny adjusts the camera and gives the signal. Dad breathes out, straightens his shoulders, and says, I don't know what to say, but I have to say something. My daughter is braver than I'll ever be. She's so strong, and her mom would be so proud, but she can't tell her because she's gone. I squeeze Dad's fingers, and he looks up at me, then back at the camera and says, I didn't want her to do this show. How wrong I was. By the time Frances speaks, there's a rawness that will only be eroded by time, a bitterness, an anger, a frustration that comes out in rants, then sobs, then finally a numb acceptance. Afterward, we pose for a picture we hope will accompany the headlines on tonight's news. I used to think it was enough to remind the world of what I've been through, to keep the image of my mother in the public consciousness. But I was wrong. We needed to come together and remind the world how evil that monster is. We needed to show him that we're not going to stand for it anymore. When we've all told our stories, I lock myself in the bathroom, the only place the cameras can't go, and I cry, harder and longer than I have in years. My audience has a distraction, my backyard full of grieving extras, but then Danny knocks on the door and asks if I'm all right. Just a minute, I call, looking in the mirror, then pulling one top off to reveal another underneath. I feel the tears come again, but fight them back. Then I take a deep breath and open the bathroom door. There is Danny smiling with the camera, and when he sees me, he smiles. I'm wearing a t-shirt that simply reads, Alive. This is what the budget went on. 50 plain white tees that I've written on. I walk back into the backyard, feeling the nerves stretching in my stomach and crawling up my throat. In my hand is a box stuffed with the bright red tops, the bright red word telling him he hasn't won. He killed her. He killed them all. But we remain, and we are stronger than we have been for years. When the others see me, some smile, some stare, some don't even notice I've changed. But Dad notices, squinting like he's looking directly at the sun, like he can't quite believe his eyes. I should have warned him, but in its own way, this is part of the plan, and as if Danny can read my mind, he points the camera at my dad. When I see him swallow his sadness, blinking away whatever this makes him feel, I know I've done the right thing. Laying the box on the grass, I step back and watch his dad reaches inside and pulls a t-shirt over his head. Then everyone copies until we are all wearing the same defiant message. I grip Dad's hands and squeeze, and the hand that used to hold me so tight, that used to carry me around like I was the most precious thing in the world, squeezes back. We're coming for you, I say into the camera. For a moment, I'm worried the others think I have gone too far. I'm scared they think I've made it all about myself again. But one by one they move until they're standing behind us, and I know he'll see this. It will be everywhere. He will see the girl he didn't break, standing next to the man whose soul he shattered, and the army of everyone else, all of us together, all of us alive. 98. That evening, as Danny and I sit in the kitchen, he says, Today was a good day. Everyone else is gone, even Ross, who hung back to celebrate what felt like a success. Dad is still outside, sitting alone on the bench Mom made him buy. He said we didn't need it. He said the lawn chairs were more comfortable, but now he's sitting on the rusty metal staring into the distance. Danny is behind the camera, and when I don't respond, he says, What do you think, Jess? I shake myself out of my daydream, smile at my invisible audience, and say, I hope we made a difference. Danny doesn't leave at 6. Instead, we watch the news together, and as they announce the headlines, I see my face on the screen along with Dad's and Ross's and everyone else's. I laugh. I can't help it. I start giggling, and Danny is zooming in on me, but I don't care. We have reminded the whole country how monstrous the monster is. Not someone you should try to copy. Not someone you set up fake profiles in honor of. Someone you catch. Someone you stop. On TV, the reporter says, in a powerful show of support and expressing anger at what they perceive as failed justice, the victims of the serial killer known as the Magpie Man came together today to remind the world of his crimes. Through the heartbreaking recollections of their loved ones, the families of the 14 known victims brought the horror back into the public consciousness on the weekly YouTube show, The Eye, Hunting the Magpie Man. The reporter tells the viewers who I am, shows a few clips including one of Ross talking about his mother, then says that if anyone has any information, they should call the police. I used to think it was a wasted plea, but if what we did works, maybe this time someone will have a clue. The last image is all of us wearing the t-shirts, silently shouting the same one-word message. When the story is over, I turn to the camera, look past it into Danny's eyes, and say, Today was a good day. 99. So, Emily says, 2 weeks community service, and I lose my free periods for a month. That's my punishment for missing school to film The Left Behind. That's so stupid. Mrs. Bradley was pissed off, but she can only do so much. She knows that spending me will make her look horrible. St. Anthony's community service means mentoring the younger kids or helping in the library or joining an after-school club. It means reinforcing school spirit. That's not too bad, Hannah says. But she would say that because she actually volunteered to coach field hockey. I still can't believe Ross got them all to agree, Emily says. Was it strange having them at your house? I think about how special it was, seeing all the left behind come together, hearing them speak, and watching them listen. We were powerful because we're still here and we always will be. I can't really explain it, I say, but it made me feel stronger, I guess. We understood what everyone is going through. Are you going to see them again? Hannah asks, and I imagine us forming some kind of support group, resurrecting our dead mothers and sisters and daughters once a week with tea and cookies. I don't say it out loud, but I like that idea. Being with other people whose sorrow matched mine, it made me feel closer to Mom, and it made me realize that talking can help if the right people are listening. Did you see my dad? I don't tell them I was proud of him. I'd rather keep that to myself. They both nod and smile, and Hannah says, "It was amazing. I can't remember the last time I saw him standing up." She looks guilty, like it's a joke she shouldn't have made, so I laugh and say, "Me neither." "And those t-shirts," Emily says. "Your mom would be so proud." She looks away, the slightest blush creeping into her cheeks, but she shouldn't feel embarrassed for saying it. I think she's right. "So," Hannah says, "what are you going to do for your community service?" I think for a minute, then say, "I'll let Mrs. Bradley decide for me. I don't have any skills or passions. All I've ever wanted is to catch the Magpie Man, but since Mayfield, I've been thinking differently. I've been wondering what comes next. Like Reg said, I need to move on, but to what? It's a thought for another day, for a moment when I've achieved a different set of goals. My exams, my future, they won't mean anything if he's still out there. That's what I'm thinking when I see a crowd in the courtyard, and through a gap I spot Bernie. She's faking a smile, the kind, sad people recognize, but everyone else mistakes for the real thing. When she catches my eye, she has a different kind of smile, one with meaning, and I smile back, then feel embarrassed and stare at the floor. I'm about to walk away when she calls my name, then runs over, hugs me, and whispers, "Thank you," in my ear. She doesn't let go for a long time, just snuggles into my shoulder, and if this wasn't in the courtyard, I might enjoy it. "Welcome back," I say at last. "Meet me at lunch," she says, "under the tree." 100. We were best friends, and then we weren't. Our friendship faded over time, the grief I felt hardening until no one could break through. By the time it softened, she was long gone. I used to blame Bernie for disappearing, but it wasn't her fault. She was only a kid doing what her parents said. When it first happened, she hugged me, because it was all she could do. And I never appreciated that. I got older and bitter and remembered her wrong. She wasn't the best friend who ditched me. I'm thinking all this as we sit under the tree until Bernie says, "I have to go to therapy now. Every Saturday. Mom and I have to talk about what happened." "What's that like?" "Shit." We smile at each other and Bernie takes a deep breath and says, "I should have thanked you at the hospital. You saved my life." "I didn't do anything. You found me." I look into her eyes and try to remember what she was like when we were kids. Before Mayfield, this wouldn't have happened, but I know better now. "Do you remember my mom?" I ask. Bernie smiles and says, "Of course. She was beautiful." "I'm sorry if I was upset with you when we were kids. I wish we'd stayed in touch." Bernie's face drops. "Me too. It wasn't your fault. My mom was so desperate for a new life. When she married my stepdad, she forgot all about Doveton." We were quiet for a while, then Bernie says, "Remember that sleepover with the pillow fort?" It had started in my bedroom, the two of us under my duvet, propped up with an umbrella. But it didn't stop there. Mom followed us inside, said it wasn't big enough, and pulled her duvet in too. Then we were in the hallway, our silliness expanding as Dad brought the bedding from the spare room, then the sheets from the linen closet, all propped up on wood he kept in the garage. We crawled from room to room, giggling in the glow from our flashlight until we fell asleep. The next morning we found Mom and Dad cuddled up in a different part of the fort, and neither of us wanted to wake them. I love Hannah and Emily, but we don't have stories like that. I started this without knowing where it would end. All I wanted was justice, but life is bigger than a single thought, no matter how much it consumes you. Closure isn't only finding the Magpie Man, it's finding who I was and who I want to be. "What's your therapist like?" I ask. Bernie says, "She's a counselor." "What's the difference?" "I don't know." I know what grief feels like. I know how dark it gets when there's no way past it. Maybe I don't need to forget what happened to Mom to move on. Maybe I can use it to help other people. What are you thinking about? Bernie asks, and I shake myself out of my daydream. The future.